Hey, folks, it is time for Stud Stories. We've got the Tennessee Stud. All we need is the story. And now, he is the Tennessee Stud, Ron Fuller. Hey, Ron, tell us the story, man.
All right, Dave. This one is going to be a little bit different than the direction we have been going. This one it's kind of an answer to the fans, and we are those that are on YouTube regularly know that all the USA television shows, all 23 of them, have been on there now, and I've gotten so many questions from people about why did I close that company down so early on because, gosh, after watching all 23 of those episodes again, it's just been phenomenal. I recognized wow, it was even better than I thought that our program was. So, so that's gonna be ours today. I'm gonna try to keep this fairly brief, but I want to answer all those fans out there that are wondering why such a great company with so many good wrestlers, a tremendous commentator like Gordon Soley, only had a 23-week run. So, and in order to do that, I want to back up. I have to back up for fans out there. And I'm going to back up to the sale of Continental. Why I sold Continental probably is a good start of why I'm going to sell USA so quickly. I sold Continental in the fall of 1987, and just before 1988 started. And I sold it to a guy named David Woods, who owned a television station in Montgomery, Alabama. Mm-hmm. And I sold it basically because about 1984, about the 85, Vince Sr. died, and he left his business to his son, obviously Vince McMahon Jr. And Vince McMahon Jr. Pretty quickly got himself on a national television program about 1985, just about the time, a little bit after Continental, we went into the big building with Gordon Soley. And because I knew that it was coming. And so I wanted to have a big building arena television program that could compete if it happened. And it happened pretty shortly after I got that Continental TV up and running. So we had run for about 3 years at this point, up to about 1987. And obviously, Vince had started closing down territories, shutting them down by taking their talent and going in and running in their big buildings and running opposition to them. And he was beginning his quest to own wrestling, period. And so I stayed in it for a couple of more years. He came to Birmingham. We've talked about that one before. Fans have probably heard about that. First time he came there, we killed him. We basically just blew his mind so bad he never came back. He's going to come and against USA in Knoxville in 1988. But anyway, I decided that, I'd been in the business a long time. There's this guy coming. He's sitting in New York. He's on a national television outlet. He's stealing the best talent in the world from other NWA promoters and territories across the country and going to set them, shut them down, basically. And I decided to sell out. And so I did in the late fall of 1987. And in 1988, I went back to Knoxville. And I decided I would like to run Knoxville, another little small territory, nothing big, but it would give me something to do. In about 2 months, I started getting a little bored, and I said, I need to have something to do. So I had another guy named Bob Polk, who is on this last TV show, the USA show that fans have been seeing. And a lot of people say, who is that guy that's commentating with you on that last USA show? His name is Bob Pope. He is a partner with me in the USA TV, and he's going to become a partner with me in hockey a couple of years down the road. Anyway, So we get this company up and going, USA. Obviously, we get Bob Armstrong and a couple of his sons, and then Scott comes with him. Eventually, Brian Armstrong makes his first appearance as a Marine on one of those shows. That family's involved. Got a great bunch of talent, and once I start watching these USA TV shows over again, I realized, wow, this program was tremendous. And then since we've ran this last one, the number 23, actually in the number 22 USA show, I actually leave the desk with Gordon Soley for the first time and only time. Because Ron Wright and his Stomper and his Stormtrooper and his dog and his bodyguard and all of his entourage had been taking over every show toward the end of these shows in the last 5 or 6 shows, and just basically running roughshod over USA Wrestling, doing what they wanted. And in number 22, he gets this young talent, this 17-year-old boy named Todd Morton, who is a tremendous little worker. Going to have a great little career for himself, but he just the Stomper pulverizes him, and opens a gash in his head, and it's so bloody that we had to black out the face on the screen during much of the rest of that match. But on the end of it, he doesn't just beat the kid. Then after he beats him, he just starts beating him to pieces, and then a lot of wrestlers come to the ring, people that are involved there trying to help stop this, And Ron Wright he sicks his Stormtrooper on one of them, and he sicks his dog on another one. He sicks his bodyguard on another one. And and Stomper's beating the guy to death in the ring. And I told Gordon, I got to go. Somebody's got to stop this. And so it becomes, when I watch that back, I never saw a studio get as crazy as that studio went. A lot of people in the studio were so into that match and what happened at the end of it that they were practically in the ring, but you could tell they didn't even know where they were. They were just it was crazy. It was absolutely unbelievable. And that was basically the last show. Now, we had a show number 23, and it was because at the end of this one, I had decided Vince had brought his WWE, it's still WWF at that point, but he brought it into the University of Tennessee's Thompson Bowling Arena, and had a big crowd. Hulk Hogan was on his card. A lot of the guys that I had built in Southeastern days, they had gone on to be big time stars. And, Ted DiBiase, a lot of these guys were on his card, and he had a big crowd. And I could see the writing on the wall. And I decided, I've been in it for so long. I see what's going to happen. And I just don't, I want to get out. I'm ready to retire. So I sold USA Wrestling. I probably sold it a month before it actually closed down. I told the wrestlers, guys, I'm closing up. I've had it. I want to retire. And for the first time in my life, I bought myself a boat, and I started enjoying the lakes like all my wrestlers in that territory had been doing for 10 years.
What were you thinking?
Ain't that a crazy thing?
Yeah.
I really retired.
Yeah.
And I bought a boat, and I went to the lake, and I started enjoying my life. And fans have been just pounding me with, why did you do this? Why would you sell something like that? And once I see these shows back, I ask myself that, wow, this thing was really on fire. I mean, we had some of the greatest wrestlers. We had tremendous things happening on TV every week. The crowds were getting bigger and bigger. But, then I remember back, but I could see what was going to happen. And I guess probably I sold it because I didn't want to have to close my business and have Vince McMahon beat me at anything. So,
Right.
that's probably, and the real reason is that, I couldn't stand to lose to Vince McMahon Jr. With anything. So I sold out. And then, and that's my explanation to the fans out there. But I got to tell you, fans, I only had about a year and a half of retirement in my life. And I went to a hockey game. And gosh almighty, Dave, it changed my life. I saw a game that I had never seen live before. And I watched it, and I sat there and thought about what I could do with this type of game. There was so much lacking in that presentation, the way the way the teams came out on the ice. Everything about it was undersold, in my opinion. And I talked to Bob Polk, the same guy that's on this number 23 USA show. I talked to Bob Polk about my ideas. Bob, we could do this and we could do that, and we can take this and maybe make some money with it. Well, what happened, Dave, was I made more money in 5 years in hockey than I made in 18 years of wrestling.
Wow.
I mean, we didn't just take it and see what we could do. We lit that business up. I mean, they had never seen stuff like we did.
Yeah.
Everybody copied us, all the way now to the NHL.
Yeah.
Every damn team in all of hockey has an introduction. Mm-hmm. We did the very first one. So all those stories are coming, fans. There's going to be stud stories as well. We'll talk about hockey and the things that we created and the things that we did to make that sport. And just to give them an idea, the first game I ever saw had less than 1,000 people sitting in the stands.
And where was that?
That was in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Right.
They had a hockey team in Knoxville in 1988. Well, it was 1989 before they had their first team.
Right.
I went to the game in 89 and I bought a franchise. But they had less than 1,000 people in the stands. And I said, geez, I told Bob, I think we can do something with this. Our very first game in Nashville, Tennessee in 1989 in the East Coast Hockey League, it just had 6 teams in it at that point. They told us for months before we actually had the first game, we had these press conferences, and every newspaper and radio station, television station were saying, are y'all kidding? You're going to die. You ain't got to draw 500 people. And our guests kept saying, hey, we're going to find out, ain't we? We're going to all know. And the first night we drew 6,000 people.
Whoa.
To a hockey game in Nashville. Whoa. The hockey business went crazy. The country went crazy. I started all the way to the big NHL teams were saying, what did you do?
Yeah.
And so all that's in the future. But I wanted to take this particular stud story to explain to fans why I decided to close USA so soon. And someday down the road, we're going to really get into big time changing hockey.
All right, before you leave, though, I got to ask, were you already an investor when you were at that game, or did you see the game and then say, okay, I'll invest?
I saw the game, and I was not an investor. In fact, we got free tickets because we had run wrestling in that Coliseum for many, many years.
Yeah.
And the manager gave us free tickets. And the first period, Dave, to be honest with you, it was so bland. The way the teams were introduced in the first period, there was nothing at all that happened. And I almost left the building. I told Bob, I don't know, Bob, I don't see it. And then we stayed on to the beginning of the second period, and 2 guys threw their gloves down and they started a fight. And that building, the poor little 1,000 people or less that was in there got up on their feet. And I turned to Bob and I said, Bob, I think we can do something with this.
Yeah, the stud's eyebrow raised a little bit and he went, uh-huh.
Yeah. You
Okay.
know, it's like, wow,
Wow.
man, I see a bigger picture here. And so thank goodness we sat through it. We went right in. I got up as soon as the fight was over, and I said, Bob, we're going to see the manager of the building.
Wow.
And we went in, talked to him about the hockey team, what's going on, how many people, who do we contact, and we got into hockey.
Wow.
And that's a great story there because they were horrified when they realized that a wrestler is about to buy a hockey franchise.
What's going to happen? Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can imagine.
Yeah.
And it just went on and on for the first 2 years, man. They just, it's just like, oh, God, Ron, you're not going to kill us all. You're
Well,
not going to bring in these goons. You're not going, all the not gonnas were just all there.
well,
But we're going to get into that later on. And for fans out there, I got to say before I end here today, I so much appreciate all you fans out there that are on YouTube that have been jumping on these. Started out kind of slow, wasn't a big interest in these USA TV shows, and wow, it ends up these suckers are just they're going crazy. People are loving it, and I appreciate everybody that's watching all this stuff on YouTube. Wow, it's just it's mind-boggling to me, and I really thank everybody out there.
hey, I want to mention one more thing on the way out because you gave hockey a personality and a face. And that's going to be exciting when you start talking about that because that was not your intended profession. So that's going to be exciting one day. And what you did to change hockey, and if people see hockey today and they're fans, it probably connects back to what you did in Knoxville many years ago. Good stuff.
It's going to, and what's going to happen from the very first game introduction that we did with the Nashville Knights in Nashville, Tennessee, in front of 6,000 people, is going to turn in to the game introduction for darn near every indoor sport, including basketball and everything else. They all got it from that night in 1989, Nashville, Tennessee.